October, with the aim of halting increases in student fees. Students also demanded that government increase the funding of universities. The protest started at the University of the Witwatersrand, Wits, where we're seeing them start now. Then they spread to the University of Cape Town and Rhodes before quickly spreading to other universities. The protest ended when former President Jacob Zuma announced that there would be no fee increases for the next year. So let's see what happened in 2016. Well, there were increases. Students protested again after an announcement that they would be capped, though, at 8%. Police used stun grenades, rubber bullets, tear gas and water cannons to disperse the students. Several were injured. Incidents of student violence also recorded. Fast forward again to 2017, students demanding free education, as promised at the end of apartheid. By the end of 2017, former President Jacob Zuma announced a fee-free tertiary education plan for students from poor households, so that there was a promise that South Africa would move towards fee-free education. The following year, the EFF tabled a motion in Parliament demanding a general amnesty and pardon for students accused of committing crimes during the earlier protests. Then in 2021, this time around, the fight is against financial exclusions. Some students have not been allowed to register because they owe Wits University historic debt above a certain threshold. The leaders say this excludes academically deserving students who can't afford to pay. The university says it has made many concessions for those who don't owe high amounts, but beyond that, it cannot afford to offer fee-free education. Well, let's take this further and look at the spark this time. We're speaking to Professor for Higher Education Studies at Free State University. That's Professor Thierry Luescher. Professor, thank you for being with us. My same question I asked someone from Equal Education earlier. There are two issues here in my mind. NSFAS and the funding of deserving first-year students by government, and then the decision of Wits University to not allow people to register if they owe, I think, well over 100,000 Rand in debt. What do you think is the main issue here? I mean, government or universities trying to deal with their own financial issues and deciding what to do?
Yeah, well, thank you, Francis. This is an excellent question. Well, and I think it's a question that concerns all of us because we are, as it has been mentioned, we are living with an austerity budget and higher education is unfortunately not on top of what needs to be funded. The problem goes way, way back, of course. I mean, the key principle here is that you cannot exclude academically deserving students financially. And that is look, I was in the SRC of UCT. It was from SASCO deployed in 1999, 2000, and we were hammering then already this very same principle that you cannot exclude academically deserving students financially. NSFAS was set up then, and NSFAS has been a problem for the last 22 years, 23 years that it has been in existence, since 1998. And frankly speaking, after the announcement in 2017 of free higher education for poor and working class students, NSFAS has actually become obsolete. It is a problem. It has been a problem historically, administratively weak, and otherwise blundering ever again. Yeah. It is actually now something that we can do away with. We must think about the efficiency in the system and sort out that aspect of it. And second of all, we must also think not just about higher education, but we must think more broadly. Here, actually, I think the Minister Blade Nzimande, when he came in as a new minister years ago, with the notion of post-schooling and post-school education, really moved us forward by saying that the college sector, which was then called the further education sector, the TVET colleges, they need to become a choice, a quality choice for students, for those, even those who would be able to go to university because they have a matric bachelor pass, but even for those that it becomes a choice to go there rather than almost like a sentence because you have not been able to go into university.
Yeah.
We need to look at it more broadly as a whole post-school system. And with that, actually, of course, that funding needs to be directed into the post-school system in general. With the TVET colleges that have been growing very fast in the last 5-10 years, with the TVET colleges now upping their quality and their desirability in the labor market as well as in the student market.
So you're saying the focus is still too much on going to university, and we know that universities are simply not able to take all the people who are applying. There's so many thousands are being left out. But you're saying that the other leg, the alternatives aren't being built up as was promised.
Yeah, well, it is being built up and it's actually been growing at a very fast pace, but it is not big enough yet. Currently, out of 100 young people who are between 18 and 24 in South Africa, only 20 make it into university. So our focus should not be only on the 20. Our focus should actually be on the 80 who do not make it to university, either because they dropped out of high school at some point or because they did not get a matric in order to allow them to go to university, or because they didn't want to go to university. But this would be a very small minority because university education does have a very high state. It is seen, of course, as the prime mode for social mobility, for social upward mobility, for entire families, indeed, not just for individuals, for entire families. That child, that young person who gets that engineering degree, who gets that law degree or medical degree, can pull an entire family out of poverty.
Yeah.
But we need to be able to have that as well for TVET, that plumber. We know how much plumbers are earning, but that becomes known that that it is a desirable occupation, a desirable profession.
Yeah,
that's
you pay plumbers a lot when you need one. Professor, before we have to cut this interview, a solution, please, for the current issue at Wits University. So I think this is not only about NSFAS funding. This is about students who owe historic debt, which I presume means they don't, or they did not in the past, qualify for fee-free education. So they owe tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands to the university. What should Wits do then? Should it carry the can? Its argument would be that it doesn't have the funds and there will be no university to speak of in future. So what is the solution to this issue?
The solution has always been a systemic solution. An individual institution cannot carry that burden. In the past, it has been, before fees must fall, it has been basically in the historically black institutions, in the rural institutions, away from the media, where this problem has been every year leading to protests. Fees must fall was special insofar as that it spilled over. This problem of of student financing spilled over into a metro, into Johannesburg, and then it came into the public attention, the media attention, and so on, and it became a threat. Now, of course, and then the solution was a systemic one. It was not, it became a national protest, and eventually it went all the way to the very top. As you mentioned earlier, it was President Zuma in 2015 who announced a zero increment, and then again in 2017 at Nasrec, he announced that there would be free higher education. This is a systemic issue. This cannot be solved by one institution alone. And what is now happening with additional funding being allocated to NSFAS, that is the immediate solution, but that is not the solution going forward long term. We need to actually sit down. It has been it has been 25 years since the last time the sector as a whole sat down together. There was Mandela's Commission on Higher Education in 1996.
Professor, I'm sorry, we have to wrap it there only because of time, and I have so many more questions to throw at you, but hopefully we can chat again. Thank you very much, Professor of Education Studies at Free State University, Thierry Luescher.